So, greetings. For those of you receiving this, my name is Liv, and I'm here with this beautiful soul, Angela, who, believe it or not, we've only just recently connected, which is amazing anyway, because it feels like we've known each other through lifetimes. And for those of you that know Angela already, I imagine you love her so much, and I also love her so much. And so inspired. I'm so inspired by you, Angela, as you know. And I guess, yeah, and it was just recently that I let you know, I just kept getting kind of pinged by spirit. They were putting this idea for us to have a recorded conversation and to simply allow it to flow, however it naturally flows. And as I was telling you before we started recording, even though I feel that we've we I feel like we've been priestesses through some lifetimes together also, and here we are in this lifetime doing this too. Um, and and also, I'm so intrigued by ways that you share. Also, we're connected on Instagram too. So so intrigued by the ways you share your updates. And there's so much I'm inspired by about you and your particular way. And also, I love that it feels like it just naturally rises from your essence, that it feels it's so just who you are. And
Mm.
um I guess we could start by how we connected in the first place. Or do you want to share that or share your your side of the story? It's your side of the story.
Well, pardon me as I am eating a piece of chocolate over here. Cacao Goddess wants to be here. Cacao Spirit wants to be part of the conversation too. And I'm just want to say first and foremost, I'm so grateful for the invitation and the inspiration from your guides to join together in this conversation. And, it feels like a beautiful opportunity for priestesses to join forces together for the greater good of all. And that kind of, lends itself to how we initially connected not that long ago, like you're saying. And, thank you also just for all the beautiful, words that you're speaking and I can just reflect it all back to you. You're such an inspiration for me and for myself on my end. I have been following your priestessing and your work in the world for many years, and I feel like we've talked about this, and I can't remember the timing exactly, but it's been a long time, maybe like 7 years or something, that I've been on your mailing list and following all your offerings, and just in appreciation and awe and feeling this kindred spirit, and appreciation in these ways where, it's not like there's not necessarily a lot of people out there doing this kind of work, and so when you see someone who's doing something similar and comparable, it's just like, well, you take note and there's a resonance and something like that just pulls you to want to connect, right? And so I've just always appreciated the depth and divinity of your offerings, and how you put all your work out there, and all your service is done in such a beautiful way, and and from the heart. It's so felt, and I've always felt that, and yet all this while we've never actually connected personally, and I've just been kind of on the outside observing and appreciating you. And then you found me on Instagram somehow just a few months ago. And then that's kind of where it happened. And I was just like, oh my goodness, Liv Wheeler has found me. She's there's an activation here, like, and it just felt so thrilling. I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. And I think you had left a comment on one of my posts and just appreciating my own priestessing in the world. And And I believe that my first comment back to you was along the lines of, I would love to join Priestess Forces together with you. And see what comes from that. So it's been such a beautiful kindred connection that we've been sharing thus far, and a lot of remembrance happening, and a lot of synchronicity, and just, yeah, in that sense of like knowingness, like as soon as we really started connecting, and um like that sense of familiarity, and just like it didn't feel like talking with someone new, it was just kind of like so familiar, and so, as we've been kind of sensing, past life. Undeniable for sure. And I feel like, especially when the nature of our work tends it's to be on the level of just kind of being like the solo practitioner on some level, or solo facilitator, drawing groups together, or extending service out to others to work with us as individuals, that it's very powerful to join, as individuals together, to strengthen the field, to to for just everything to expand and grow. It's like the point, the place where we can come together as individuals just enables us to, the word is escaping me right now, the word like maximize is coming through. I'm like, it's not but like the field, it becomes so much stronger, so much bigger, and we can reach so many more people. The energies join together, and then it becomes like limitless. So much more becomes accessible. And I feel like for others on the outside too, to witness two sovereign, sacred women coming together in support of one another, in appreciation of one another. Also, I feel like there's some beautiful healing energy that comes from that, and it's a beautiful transmission that we can co-create together, and so here we go. It's happening, right?
Yeah, here we go for sure. And yeah, thank you so much, Angela. And yeah, it was we could say, I believe it was spirit that wove you into my awareness. And then I was like, wait a minute, who is this? Wait a minute, where did she come from? And yeah, the more I was tuning in, yeah, I was loving, or I was loving, and I do love, I've continued to love, and it's only grown the more I've gotten to know you in this dimension, is your depths. And clearly, I don't even know if a soul could have those depths had they not done their own inner excavation and ability to be with all dimensions of their own being and other human beings, and feeling the acceptance that you also must have for yourself as well, because the way that it feels so good to be in your presence, that you really love genuinely. I feel that with you. It's like it feels so genuine, your love. And I feel like all of the ways that you express, I feel it's just so much beauty that comes from it. And it's like the beauty, it shows also the potential beauty of allowing the depths of the human experience, all of it. And also, I remember I was listening to was doing, going into all your different shares on Instagram. I was like, oh my God, I love this. And it kept all of it. I always feel your depth, your depth. So it's such deep
Mm.
energy and deep waters, deep soul, it feels like. And I remember also, I think you were speaking about the mother wound, or different things about triggers and things like that, and it just all felt so honest what you were saying. In ways, what I've felt also, um, in the culture, it feels like there's been whole rites of passage. That's been my sense through the years, that you and I were talking about rites of passage and initiations. And I feel like you and I have maybe gone into those spaces more intentionally, in our walk. That's my sense with both of us, is there's been the intentional initiations or the intentional rites of passage, and my sense of what's happening in the collective is we're all going through initiations, some all
Mhm.
collectively. And how do we know if we've made it through to the other side? How do we know when we've healed a wound? Maybe the trigger doesn't activate anymore, or
Mhm.
these kinds of these energetic experiences that we feel in our vibratory field, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, as you and I were speaking about before too, I was letting you know I feel that you're, well, gifted in so many ways, gifted at being human. Also, I feel like you're really gifted at being human too. It's
Like that
beautiful.
is a huge compliment.
Yeah,
It's
this
not
this
not easy being human.
great, this graceful way of, I feel like you be with human gracefully. There's like so much grace that moves through your humanity, I feel. And as you and I were talking about before too, it feels like your depth of honesty in the ways that you share enables others to feel, or it has, when I listen to it, um, I can reflect in my own experience, and it feels like, well, it feels so relatable that you share, all kind of dimensions of it. And I feel just the more connected to you and to humanity also through the ways that you share, is like, oh yeah, we have these experiences, don't we? Um and we can also move through it. It's possible to move through these challenges.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of that. And something that is coming through right now just in response to that very thing, and to what you were speaking to earlier about um that depth of sincerity, of genuine love, coming through, and all of this. I think it all just comes down to that simple embracing of all that this human existence is, and not trying to reject any of it, and um not discarding anything as anything, but everything is sacred. That's I think this is something that's just been part of my personal journey ever since I had my initial awakening, and really stepped onto the spiritual path, which was a move that I didn't even know that that's what it was, but that's what was happening. And it had everything to do with starting to examine myself, and really being with all that makes me who I am, and ultimately it took me on this journey of really um, embracing the shadow of the human existence, and really starting to connect with everything as being sacred, and it's something that came very early on in my spiritual journey. And there's been an innocence, I would say, to my path, because I didn't set out on it consciously. And it's all truly just been guided by the heart, and in a very non esoteric kind of way, because I didn't I would say, I even said it to someone yesterday, like, I've always been a mystic. However, I was not aware of my mysticism for most of my life, but that was like the truth of my nature. But I was blocking myself to being really connected with it. And so it wasn't until I moved to the desert from a very mundane, average kind of existence until the age of like 28, I, the pull of my heart took me to the middle of the desert to live alone in a little cabin in the middle of nowhere. Um, and and I lived, like that for 12 years. But in the earlier years, those were the most initiatory years, where I just moved a few hours away from where I had lived always, in Southern California, and moving to Joshua Tree. But I might as well have moved to another planet for how different it was. And it was such a massive life leap, to just kind of leap into this unknown reality that I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I needed to be there and that I needed to open myself up to a new way of being. And I started asking the questions of wanting to know, like, who am I? What is it I'm actually here to do? And so, those are like the innocent questions and the most important questions that we ask when we're starting to wake up, and starting to really explore the spiritual path. But again, like, spirituality wasn't really part of my languaging. And the spiritual teachings came from the nature, it came from being alone in nature, in such an intense kind of extreme environment, and really being alone with myself in the stillness and the vastness of the desert, and being confronted with everything. Like, that's the medicine of the desert. It's like you can't escape yourself because there's nothing distracting you, especially when you're uh, by yourself, and you've been guided to move by yourself to a place where you don't know anyone. And it still amazes me. It still amazes me to look back to that time, because it was so far beyond anything I had ever done. I'd never done anything on that level before. And I still just have to, like, pat myself on the back, like, good job, you, like, back then, who, you know, like, for following that, because that was wild. That was like a wild thing. Like, everyone was just like, wow, what are you doing? Like, who is this person? Um, and so, I say, like, the path had really innocent sort of foundation set, because I wasn't seeking anything specific from any outside person or practice, or, you know what I mean? Like, it was just me and the desert and the elements. And I always say that my first spiritual teacher was the desert. And that's just how things started coming through, was through being in the stillness and the silence and the solitude, as I was starting to open up and receive messages and just knowings and just understanding of how the universe operates. And like my way of receiving, in terms of intuition and clairvoyance, the clairs, like we were actually talking right before we started recording, like clairsentience and clairvoyance and clairaudience. And my way of receiving is knowing. So claircognizance is my strongest clair, and it's just knowing. And it's wild. So it's wild that, like, just the knowing started opening up in my heart that the truth of this reality is love. And that we are all divine beings, and that everything is sacred. And it really just started with that awareness, like understanding, like, everything is sacred. Every moment of the day is sacred. Every act that we do, whether it's like in this spiritual context or not, it's all sacred. And so that was the how my path really started being established, was the depth of understanding that nothing is separate. Like, we are all connected, we're all coming from the same source, and everything in this reality is that. It's all, everything that we experience, every little object, every act, all of it is divinity expressing itself in some kind of form. And so when you're able to kind of hold that in your awareness, it changes everything. And so, just every little thing that you do throughout the day, it can be held in this reverent state of just, like, understanding, like, this is a divine experience right now. Just drinking a glass of water, or making some juice, becomes like a ceremony. And that's how it really started for me too, is like really like being in the kitchen, and or being with self-care practices, or connecting with the land and the nature, just really recognizing the ceremony that is in everything, and that it changes the energy of of the things that you're doing that feel very mundane, when you're tuning in with it from that perspective, like the ceremony of washing the dishes, the ceremony of taking out the trash. Like, it can be all of it, and it really does shift everything. And so in those earlier stages, again, I didn't even know, like, what the language was around any of it. It was just that knowing. And even to the extent of embracing everything as divine, and sacred meant that I was embracing, my own feelings and emotions and experiences that might be perceived as negative. Like I was embracing all that as sacred also, without knowing that that's like the very nature of shadow work, and I didn't have the languaging for shadow work at those earlier years, but that's what it was. And really finding the great value and power of embracing the things that otherwise are considered to be unacceptable, or not spiritual, and so it's just beautiful beginnings of all of it just coming from within me. And then as I continued on the path, I was able to connect with teachers or teachings or books or practices that really solidified my own knowing of what I'd been receiving, things I had already been channeling about divine love and, all of these things. And so everything just became affirmation, like, okay, like, yeah, like this is my experience already. And how nice to see that it's not just me. I'm not the only one. Anyway, so it's just kind of like that's the foundation from which I've been working from all these years.
So I was having a sense while you were talking about being there in the desert and the nature and everything being teachers and also feels like conduits, yeah, of knowledge and the mystery and this, I mean, having this kind of like sensory experience when you're sharing too, it feels profound and brave also that you trusted, that you trusted and you went there in this place that maybe felt so alien or so foreign, just allowing and trusting and keep going forward and keep going forward. And it's interesting too that it's these aspects of ourself, what you're talking about, that can be referred to as shadow, these parts is like, this is acceptable, this is not. We push that away, we act like that doesn't exist. And then, it's like rejecting parts of the self. But
Yeah.
these different, even when I imagine I've been to the desert there before and just a few times and feeling the cactus or the cacti. I don't know if that's exactly how you say it, but imagining too that I realized there's particular desert or flower essences that I've worked with before, and I always noticed the particular ones that I always found so potent or so effective were from the desert, and
Mm,
that stood out to me, that from the desert flowers. But it's interesting too because while you're sharing, I'm thinking that it's the ways that we relate to something, how we relate to something is potentially making way for the deeper medicine or the gnosis too. It feels like what you're sharing it too is the in a sense it feels like the path of the self-initiate and also the it feels like yeah, the feminine mystic that has all this she's like in divine ecstasy with the universe. This is the sense that I have while you're talking. It's like dancing. It's funny they said dancing with the stars. Like dancing with the stars. A different kind of dancing with the stars. Different stars, but this I feel like they can tell they're playing with me. They put it in my mind. But this it feels like that, the kind of in that full embrace of all of it too, then the potential prick, something that can prick you is the most beautiful friend. You know what I mean? It's the best
yeah.
friend. It's the one with this potent medicine and realizing that maybe it's, yeah, cultivating that kind of sensitivity, that depth of sensitivity to see it's just understanding each each plant and being in nature, they have their different ways. And to, yeah, that when we attune to these different beings, so I feel this a lot with um relations in the world, is that is how we relate to it too, is determining whether that flower opens or it shuts. It's
Mm,
attuning to
mhm,
the nature of a being, but it's so beautiful the way it feels like you just went into that full immersory experience or something. It feels like a full immersion with creation. You know what I mean?
mm,
It's like really going through those thresholds or those maybe birth contractions, it feels like. Interesting. I
mhm.
think you and I maybe talked about this when we connected one time before. You don't have children physically in this life, right?
No,
I don't
no.
either. We have
Yeah.
these different similarities that we've both been really listening to, guided by spirit or by our heart, and just really going there and knowing that we, I mean, this is the way I experience it. It feels similar too. It's like you've just got to go there.
Yeah.
You just gotta go and find out. And there's that sense or that there's just the longing there. And to allow that longing and trust in that. I mean, that's the way I felt it. It was just kind of like an internal longing. And maybe the way some women have for they long to have a baby, or we long for different things. And I feel
Mm,
that you and I both have in common too is this the devotion. It's like the devotion to it, whatever it is the sense of devoted. I'm devoted to it. It's like
mhm,
that, whatever that is, and this kind of like Venusian reverberations. But I
mhm.
my sense is, I mean, I've heard women through the years talk about it. It feels like women do get pinged. They receive the ping. They get the ping, like the heart ping. You get receive that ping from your heart. It's like, but maybe allow other energies, voices, something to be louder. And
Mhm.
maybe it's like, are we allowing that to matter? Are we trusting in that sensation? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's pretty wild as you're describing all of this and how I'm relating to it and seeing things in new ways. Like I love that you're equating the longing, the longing that we have to just follow the heart and to into the unknown, to that as, a woman who might want to have a child, and it's like yeah, and I personally haven't had that longing. I have never had that longing. And it's I think just hearing you speak to it, it helps to like it's so healing just to like talk about this because it feels like okay, well it becomes even more clear, what the higher, purpose of our paths has to do with, it's like birthing in these different ways and fulfilling a role that is in service to many people, and it requires certain things. And there's just something about the like that longing piece too, where right now, I'm not living in the desert anymore. And this is a fresh new leap of the heart that I've taken that's a much bigger leap than when I first left my mundane life into the unknown of the desert. Now it's gone next level where I've jumped from over 14 years of living in the desert to living in the jungle in Costa Rica, where I'd never been before. So I just leapt into a whole nother country where everything is completely different. And I feel like I've been dropped into another timeline, and I'm looking around, and and it's like fresh and new for me. For like 3 weeks I've been here. And I manifested this extraordinary jungle sanctuary that's this open air design, and I'm really in the jungle. And and it's like, so I've been like actively with this awareness, like I manifested my dream home and it's in the jungle. Like I didn't speak to the jungle part, I just had specific things I was asking for. And and this home fulfills all of it, and it happens to be in the jungle. And so I I am very much with the elements here. And there's no separation really because of the way the house is designed, and I'm like immersed in it. And if the rains are coming down like they are during the rainy season, I'm in it, and it took me a while. It's taken me only up until like the last couple of days where it occurred to me I really am living in my dream home, because I feel like for myself that the ultimate experience of divinity comes through merging with nature, because that's been the consistent through line in my spiritual path. And before, like, and when I was just initially waking up, the pull was to be in nature. I just, like, my heart was longing to be in nature. So the longing was, I just want to be in it. I just want to be in it. And that's always been the sense, and the feeling is just like, I just want to be in the nature. And so I manifested that for the desert life, where I lived in the middle of the desert wilds, on my own for all those years. And I was still, like, in this little cabin, and there was the sense of separation, but, like, I'm still in it. And came to understand myself as being a sort of person who, when the craziest storm was raging outside, I wanted to be outside in it. I, like, wanted to feel it. I wanted to be caught up in the wildest of winds. If there's, like, lightning outside, I want to run out and, like, capture it with my camera, and barefoot. And these are all things that were just, like, new, like, coming through me. Just, this is just, like, authentic me. Like, how I'm relating to divinity is just, like, it's expressing through the nature in its most wild, raw form. And I want to remember that for myself. And so it's just, like, being in it, kind of, I suppose I've never actually attempted to describe this until right now. So it's quite interesting, because I just wanted to, like, merge with the nature in that way. Um, and anytime I would be inside, if there's some reason I couldn't be outside while there's some, like, amazing nature phenomena happening, it would be, like, hurting my heart. Like, I just want to be outside. I want to be outside. I want to be in it. And now I'm living in a place where there is no separation, and I'm always in it 100% of the time. And so it just dawned on me just in the last few days, like, this really is my dream reality, to just be in the nature all the time. Like, there's no separation now. And, I have the comfort of home, but it's exposed to the trees and the nature, and all the elements and the sounds of the very alive, vibrant jungle sounds, which are being silenced out by Zoom, but it's like, it's a symphony surrounding me right now. So, but yeah, just to say, like, that longing, the longing is, it's a beautiful thing to explore, whether it's the longing to follow, the path of the heart into the unknown, as we have, or the longing to be in a relationship, or the longing to have a child, or any of these things. I think, if we really want to explore that and examine that, I think at the core of all of it is the longing to merge with divinity, to really remember our truth through these experiences.
Wisdom, and as you're sharing, I was noticing that I feel positively activated by you. I feel positively ignited by your being, by your transmission. That I was noticing the way I experience your being um as an alchemized being. You know,
Mm.
I experience your being as an alchemized being, and there being a very effective and clear yeah, transmission from that divine frequency, which is, it feels so potent. And so while you're sharing, it's kind of like activates different visions and things like that. And I was feeling and sensing different things while you were sharing, and also feeling that when you were in the desert before, and you and I were connecting there, and I was feeling your being, that is this way, this kind of immersion in nature. So there's different things that were kind of flowing in. One of the things that was flowing in is, this is an aspect or a dimension of the feminine that I feel is so I've experienced through the years women really longing to connect with their natural side, to allow for that. That's something that I've felt, that I've seen in women's eyes when they see, it's like the woman who's willing to go into the wilderness of her own being, or actually to go as you are and you have and you've done. I mean, that's pretty, it feels super potent going out and being drawn into the elemental spheres in this way. It feels like these different kinds of spheres of consciousness. When I feel I just kind of get different impressions while you're sharing, and this kind of being, this being that you are, and your courage and willingness to go into those the in a sense, they say, like, I don't know why they say the pathless path or something, but it's like the path, that hasn't been walked before also. And you're feeling your way, through it, and you're trusting and you're feeling. And so it all those clairs, everything, it feels like it just grows stronger and stronger, which also I feel it enables others to be initiated by your presence,
Mm.
because of the quality of your soul essence that that your being has transformed effectively. And so it feels like it enables other beings to go through the like those positive genuine activations, which my sense or my hunch is that that means what that potentially means also is that everybody has potential. I feel like we all are aware that we all have potential. And my sense is that maybe everybody longs to have their potential actualized. My sense is that's something that everybody longs for. And
Mhm.
obviously, well, but why do they or why don't they then? Or why don't they could it be the fear they allow? It's like allow the fear to be bigger than the perceived threat or something of the unknowns, what could happen. And you and I were talking about that also before we were recording, is that yeah, that there are so many loud energies and loud voices right now that can feel so scary. And so how do we let that other voice that comes from within, that rises from within, how do we allow that to be a greater guide?
Right. I mean, the fear of, what's the response. Let me hold on a second here. The rains are coming in again. There's so much that wants to come through in response to this, and I feel like there's something about the place that we're in right now collectively where so many people are becoming more and more aware of that longing, that you speak of. Ah, and it's so beautiful how you do speak to it in terms of like everyone has that longing to have their fullest potential realized. And we all deserve that. Everybody deserves it. It's a birthright, to have our fullest potential realized and embodied and actualized. And yet, we're in this time where we've been so conditioned to live in a different kind of way that's counter to our true nature for so long. So at the same time, while we are all more and more and more waking up to the reality and the truth that there is so much more, and that there's like this readiness to experience it and to live it, and to embrace transformation, to really live as our highest divine expressions are called to be. um there is so much fear around what that is, because there isn't anything more unknown than that, because we're so entrenched in these old systems and programs, you know, that have blocked our ability to really access the fullness of our potential and the fullness of our divinity. There's so much that is working against us, and at the same time it's like so familiar and so comfortable um to hold on to these old constructs, you know, because it creates this illusion of safety, and the things that are familiar are comfortable. And as soon as we start saying yes to the unknown, it all sounds so, you know, thrilling and exciting, and just like, I want to do that. Yeah, I want to follow my heart. You know, I want to like leap and claim my wildest dream, and it all sounds so beautiful. And then the moment you start taking those steps into the unknown, it's incredibly uncomfortable because it's not known. It's the opposite of what's comfortable. It's, you know, and familiar. It's just like you're consistently, continuously taking steps into territory you've never been before, and it feels risky and it feels terrifying. And the way that, you know, you do it is just knowing that there's a greater risk in not doing it. That's just what it comes down to. You know, it's like, how do you bypass the fear that stops you from taking that leap? It's just recognizing that there's a bigger risk in not taking the leap, you know, and becoming really honest with yourself that, you know, it will be a disservice to you and to your path and to your reality, to the people you know, your family, your community. All of it is a disservice to everything if you are denying your heart its fullest expression of its truth. You know, it's like the thing that kind of comes back around here and there that helps me is just that remembrance that divinity is working through all of us, and that we're all, again, expressions of divinity. And we're cutting it off and we're shutting it down by, you know, holding back, and holding back our light in any kind of way, you know, is denying divinity to be expressed. And in these human vessels that we are, you know, it's divinity wanting to express in these unique ways through our unique soul, you know, expressions and signatures and all of that. And so uh it's just that remembrance and the reminder to myself anyway that this isn't about me at all. Actually, this is just, I'm here to follow the guidance and to allow divinity to express how it wants to express through me, knowing that like I don't actually know what's going on most of the time. I don't know where it's going. It's literally one step at a time. And I know that you can relate to that. You know, it's just like you're not given the full story, you know, when receiving divine guidance. It's just kind of like, I call it divine directives. You know, I'm just given a directive and I'm following it. And on some level, it still amazes me that this is what my life is. Like, how did this happen? I don't know. But once it got turned on, like I couldn't turn it off, you know, in terms of just that ability to trust and to continue to take these leaps into the unknown. You know, it's defined my reality. And I think that's just the way it is when we're on a path like this that's divine in nature. And there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one to like model yourself after or to look at and just be like, well, you know, it's all so personal. It's such a personal path. As much as it is about the collective, you know, it's like how being experienced through us is so personal and intimate. Uh, and I don't know if this is something that you've experienced, but I know for myself that it can get so deeply frustrating at times to just continuously be in this mystery. I'm like, okay, can someone just tell me what really, where is this all going? And, you know, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, you know, there is a lot of questioning. It's not like this is, you know, full hearted, just trusting in the unknown all the time, like, you know, taking the leaps, but also like the shadow is there. Like, it's not like I'm without it. Like, it's always part of it. You know, it's dancing with the shadow and all of it. and dancing with the humanness that we are and embracing all of it. It's just like the questioning is real, especially like when you take the bigger the leap, the bigger the questions and the bigger the shadows that it get activated. And there's no one to turn to in terms of, should I do this or not? Like, you have to trust your own heart. And this is so much of the work that I do with people is, as a guide and a support, sacred support and facilitator for others, is always guiding people back to their own ability to access their own guidance. Like, please do not come to me asking for the answers. I want to help you access your answers, because that's where the greatest power resides. Nobody can tell you what to do. Like, you have to know it for yourself and believe it and trust that you can trust yourself, and that's something that I feel I'm met with continuously, as it's this ongoing journey of trusting in the unknown, and taking these steps into new territory continuously, is just being able to trust my heart and to trust the guidance, and um so yeah.
I agree about the frustration part. I find it, I do find it, I find it frustrating a lot of the time. And what you said too, though, one step at a time, that's what I found to be helpful lately, because I feel that what's happening in the greater collective energies, my sense of it is that there is indeed like a dimensional shift happening, that there are indeed solar flares that are happening, that are indeed lighting up anything in our being that's um, wanting to be resolved or something. There are some just larger energies that are working all of our energy fields. I feel that that's happening. But yeah, I find it with all of those kind of big energies, that it feels like there's all these huge transformative energies that are happening all at once. And if somebody speaks about timelines, or there's personal and collective timelines, there's all this shift and change happening, and how do we be with that? If we make friends with it, if we resist it, and just try to find the places of safety and comfort. But I found that to be really helpful, to say just one step at a time. That's what I found to be helpful right now, when I go, the part of me that's trying to figure out, but wait, what's happening? I
Mm,
feel like I have those questions daily. And then there's another voice that said, just one step at a time, just understand
mm,
the next step. Just
mm,
understand the next step. And that's my sense of the dance with the mystery. I do feel that it can be really, really frustrating, because there's the part of me that wants to cling into something, to grasp onto, just like hold on to something, and that feels solid in the shift of everything. Maybe like a baby wants to on the mother. Just give me something that feels safe to hold on to, that I can rely on, that's not gonna, the mom's gonna, stay there. But what I feel also, um what I personally do in the practices is realize, can do different practices. People talk about regulating the nervous system and doing things where we can feel safe inside of our own being, and have practices where we can like we can be the mother to ourselves and what's happening, so that we can go into the wilderness. And when those feelings and those senses and everything arise, it's like, take a moment, put the hand on the heart, and feel and connect in with the being. And I am safe. I can slow down my heartbeat and all of that, while simultaneously attuning to. I've spoken about this more in recent years. I feel that there is a greater mother energy, that
mm,
like, also, what are we attuned to? What is our instrument attuned to or attuned with? And can we release the post possible different beliefs that say the world is an unsafe place, or these beliefs that can be there that we might not be aware that are there? and that have us potentially clinging to something that is not really going to bring about what we're longing for, that it might be just a temporary sense of relief. We can, what I found helpful is when we go through these different practices and feel that we have the ability to allow ourselves to feel safe internally. And then while simultaneously we might notice that there is actually a really, really loving energy that I believe is what's also behind and moving all of this, which in a way it does feel the different phases or the expressions of the feminine too, that she's wild. And that wild dimension of her can feel scary when we see it. We don't know what is that. I don't know what that is. She's also the wilderness. And she's also so loving. If we tune into our heartbeat, we can feel, oh, wait a minute, I feel a loving presence also.
Mm.
um these different ways that we can do different practices or find ways that we relate to it, to life, to her, to the divine, that can enable us to go into this uncharted territory, into these spaces, which I find, I don't know if you find this too, it sounds like you do, or it feels like you do. What I found is also what happens is that there's this vitality, this life force that only grows and grows and grows more that we allow ourselves to transform, to trust, to be with that, because ultimately it feels like it's choosing life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And and I feel that too in terms of the of that divine feminine energy just really is everything. It's not limited to one kind of expression, and I think that people probably have this perception of a femininity being in a box. It's like this certain kind of soft and gentle and loving and caring and nurturing and all of that and maternal, but it's everything, like you're saying, that wildness and the chaos um and the rage and all of it. This is all part of the divine feminine. She is everything, and I think that's something that when we can connect in with that and understand that it helps to see, and especially when it's reflected in the nature. I mean, that's probably part of my own personal longing towards it, is recognizing like this is the closest thing to divinity in form, that it's so pure. It's the purest form of physical manifestation of divinity is the nature. And so there's so much to learn there, and recognize that everything that we're witnessing in the nature, whatever the expression of it is or the manifestation of it is showing us an aspect of the divine, and something that we can also see reflected back in our own realities in ourselves. Uh, and so when we're able to harness that energy, of the nature, and connect in with the divine feminine that is the nature, and embrace it, the more that we're able to uh, embrace that within ourselves and see it in the others, and really start to transmute these beliefs around, things being anything but divine and sacred. So there's so much in terms of what is available to us. This is also one of the things that feels really true uh, for myself and my reality, is just being able to really recognize that every single moment that we have is an opportunity to remember, and no matter where we find ourselves in our paths, or in the work, or in our practices, or whatever it might be, that if there's judgment there, or feeling like this is never going to happen, or I've done healing work for years and I'm still working on the same stuff, like the same things keep coming up, like again and again and again, like really. But just the remembering that like every single moment is an opportunity to remember what is true. It's like, for me, it feels like a very simple place to come back to is, when we are able to have that level of belief, that, and or not the belief, but just like the knowing that we're in a time like no other. And it's kicking all the everything up to the surface for a reason, and it's like all of the energies of the divine feminine that have been canned and boxed up and pushed aside and just been like, we'll take this part but not these parts, to just know that what's happening is like all these energies that have been boxed up and limited and denied. I mean, not limited, but like full on denied for thousands of years. It's just like it's all getting shaken up, and it's all kind of like so much that's been contained and buried away for so long. Like imagine the energy of it, of something that's like bottled up and not being able to express, in its true form, in its fullest form. So it's just kind of like that's kind of what I see like really exploding on the planet, also in terms of the nature and all like the natural you know devastations that we see, like so many huge things happening on the planet, in terms of just the nature, and it's just like, well, a big part of that is like the divine feminine that's not been expressed for so long, is just like the opportunity is, or the time is now. The time is now. So, it's like this is a time like no other, and just to recognize that, what we're seeing on the external is a reflection for what's happening on the internal, and the things that we are seeing in the nature are a result of, things that have not been expressed for so many years, and for like eons, right? um and to recognize that that's happening for us personally on the individual level, that the divine feminine within us is, raging and ready to be expressed, and all the things within us that have not been granted that permission or had that ability to express, it's like now's the time. And for anyone who might be really struggling with that, or feeling like there's parts of you that are not being expressed, um like this is the work at hand here, is to give yourself that permission to feel, and to explore these areas within yourself that have been buried away. It's really just so much of the journey has to do with feeling the feelings and giving love to all these places within that have not been given love for, maybe ever. Maybe ever. But it's like we're in this radical time of change and transformation, and here we are, the two of us talking about being on these paths that we live, where it's just this constant perpetual journey of traversing the unknown. And here we are talking about how, it's actually, it sounds all mystical and mysterious and magical, and then the truth of it is it is a very difficult way of being when you're not given the full picture. And how beautiful and healing it is just for the two of us to come together, and to hear like all these things that we share in common, just like, wow, this is amazing. And it, there's a power to that, and the reality is this is what's happening for all of us, is that we are all being asked to really surrender to our hearts, and to really just embrace that the future reality has to do with perpetually, continuously stepping into the unknown, because we are all co-creating a completely new reality together, and nobody knows what it looks like. Right? And I feel like so much of the reason that we're being pulled together, you and I, is just, it's an example of what is needed now. We're not supposed to be doing the work by ourselves anymore. There's so much more power available to us when we join together. And this goes for, facilitators, for guides, like I feel like the more and more that we can start coming together and co-creating together, the bigger impact that we're going to have on the world, and the bigger containers that we're going to be able to create, the more people that we can reach, the further these transmissions can reach. And the same goes for anyone who's called to join or who's on the path and is seeking the support and the guidance, like seek it out for sure. Like it's time to join together with others and not to attempt to do all of this by yourself because it's um it's the way that the world is being oriented is community based. It's like I lived for however many years, 14 years in solitude. And even though I'm like technically living by myself still in the jungle, like it's in a community. I was guided to live in a place that's an actual like tight knit, intimate community. And so it's like the deepening of that, the expansion of community and connection and working together is so much of the medicine of these times, and working together, receiving from one another, supporting one another. This is the way forward. And and we both have, this is the work that we do. Like we create these containers for healing to take place, for transformation to take place, and these spaces for people to really come into their own divinity in these ways. And so we're that's the beautiful thing too, is like our work is so similar, and we have our unique expressions of how it comes through. But and I right now am creating containers for people to join together in for pilgrimage, for coming together in person is what I'm trying to say right now. But just beautiful sacred experiences of coming together for for receiving extraordinary initiatory transformative experiences that really do change lives, and then you have your container of, you can share about that of the priestess training. um but ultimately it's like there's a power to being connected in with a container that is intentional, where there's like-minded people coming together, and you can remember that you're not doing it alone, and you're supported all the more in what it is that you are moving through. And you're not alone. None of us are alone in this. We're all in it together. We're all in this unknown territory together. And so we must lean into one another for the support and for the the expansion of healing that takes place when we do come together and witness one another and embrace one another and just really embrace one another in your own truth. And I feel like that's the ultimate overarching place that we're all being asked to reach. Is It's not about, this is what I believe and this is what I'm teaching and you need to believe this too, or judging other people's ways of of spiritual teachings, or other priestesses doing priestessing differently. Like it's all good. It's all we're all such beautiful individuals, and it's a journey about embracing the individuality, celebrating one another in whatever expression of divinity in which we are embodying in this life. And this is the path to really coming into unity, is when we recognize all the beautiful differences amongst each other, and embrace it, not just even accepting. People talk a lot about accepting the differences, and I'm like, well, how about just celebrate? Can we celebrate our differences? And every single person on this planet has their own way of seeing this reality. Isn't that amazing? That's extraordinary. It's completely unique perspectives we all have.
Exactly. I know. I feel like, yeah, I'm like, yes, that, yes, that. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what increasingly. So I guess people talk about the Aquarian age, and I've been really, for a while, I've felt this is that everybody's, you can say unique medicine, unique essence, unique, and that is, yeah, that's what creates the full community, the full village too, is everyone. I'll see it also as different colors, let's say red doesn't need to be blue, yellow doesn't need to be green. They can all, and I believe we all naturally emit particular colored frequencies too. It's we don't need to be all the same color, and that is what is naturally creating the vibrant community too. Is, yeah, we've been like forged in these particular um conditions right now. And I mean, yeah, if we can really work with, be friends with the process and find ways together. And just as you said too, I mean, I just felt such a relief when you and I, when you said that about priestesses unite. I'm like, thank you.
Mm.
Yes, let's, because it's just like you said too, one perspective might say, well, does that mean if if she comes in, does that mean there's less for me? No, it means we're greater and we're greater
Exactly.
together. There
Yeah.
we're not less than. It doesn't mean you coming in means there's less. It's, I mean, I
Right.
could speak about it more blunt and say we're talking about shifting from a scarce mindset into an abundant one. And I feel, what you were speaking about too, it's like when I think I left a voice message for you one day and it came in like water in the desert. You're like water in the desert. And then you spoke about your book. And I felt like that's how I experience you. It's these desert conditions and this like water, just this huge, you know, force or something. I don't know exactly what happened with you in the desert, but it feels like water, this water started happening, catalyst for water or something. And then there you are with the strong water current too. And I feel too, this time now is so much about the wisdom of water, the feminine, and this kind of like watery consciousness. And um, water has been my teacher, especially. And I told you too, I'm feeling called to work with you, and that's what I've mentioned is to sit in your guidance too. Is that we all learn and grow from each other. And I mean, I learn from you every time I sit with you and listen to your wisdom that flows naturally. And as we do, and as we trust in that and allow it to be, we all grow each other. We all
Yeah.
grow each other naturally if we allow for that. We expand together, and it feels. I mentioned this to you too. My sense in general, if we can trust in these energies, these mother energies, also these feminine energies, as I believe that she's trying to remind us of the inherent potential of abundance. If we allow ourselves to remember that we are vibrating atoms, that we have the ability to completely transform in any given moment when we allow ourselves to be these natural alchemists, that we can, like I believe you've alchemized. You've alchemized. That's my sense of you. You've successfully alchemized these dynamic tensions in the desert and everything, and then the water. I mean, I feel like you've walked a certain path before that's like we can pick up on it in your frequency. She succeeded in alchemizing.
Mm.
That's my sense of you, and how I get all like my dynamism starts like get activated. I'm like, oh, it's like the atoms start dancing. But but yeah,
Mm.
I'm so inspired. I told you I'm called to come and sit with you in your guidance and these journeys that you've created and coming to Costa Rica sometime. And I think, yeah, I highly encourage people to go to your website, right? It would be your
Yeah, my website is angeladelagua.com, and that is, I mean, in my opinion, and I'm sure you would agree, I just feel like the group work and working with others is where it's at. It's where everything just accelerates because we can access so much more when we're joined together with others, right? So, uh,
absolutely.
and especially when you're doing something in person, there's an extra potency to that. And of course, remarkable things happen remotely as well, and huge transformative experiences happen remotely. And also when there's an opportunity to come in person and to go deep, with someone or with a group, in the name of transforming and really accessing the truth of love within yourself, to have that kind of support in a container that is working towards that, that's it's a beautiful, beautiful, powerful opportunity. for next level transformation to take place. And there's something really potent about in-person pilgrimage and just leaving the comfort of home, I think is what I'm trying to say. Is like when we commit to something like going out of our comfortable home to leave for a period of time, there's nothing more uncomfortable on some level. It's like you have to really, that's really leaping into the unknown, is to just say yes to a retreat or to a pilgrimage, and be willing to just be with all the discomfort that comes from everything that one must do to travel and to go to a place you've never been. And in this context, it's like, all about healing and transformation. But anyway, all that to say is like they can be the most deeply rewarding and transformative experiences that really shift timelines, like so fast. And so the two clear pathways right now that I have available for people to do that kind of work with me is one-on-one retreats that I'm offering now in Costa Rica, and to come and stay with me in my beautiful jungle sanctuary home that is merged with the nature. And to really be in the medicine of the jungle, and with a wild river that's right in front of a wild, pristine, beautiful river that's right in front of the house, and to come and stay with me for 5 days, and we go deep together, and I nourish you, and we're in ceremony, and it's also totally customized to whatever the needs are of the person who is coming. So that's one really powerful, beautiful way to accelerate transformation and healing work. And then another offering that I'm co-creating with a soul brother of mine in Mexico. So in January, we are offering our second time annual pilgrimage to Palenque, Mexico, and the pilgrimage is called House of the Serpent, and it's a 7-day journey of transformation that takes place in the jungle, in these ancient temples and pyramids that hold tremendous power. And it's truly a rite of passage. It's an initiation process that again changes lives, and so much power comes in those group containers when it's a group joining together. Everyone's in the unknown together, in this really literal externalized kind of way of like, we're all in the unknown together and all supporting each other one step at a time as we move through this initiation.
Mm.
So you can find those offerings on my website. Yeah.
Our training is online. Right
Yes.
after that, I'll say. But thankfully, you can do beautiful things online too, because we're eternal beings and multidimensional beings. So that can happen also. But I'll share just briefly current the priestess training that we have right now is what's different about it than what we've done before. And I feel this is a path that you've been walking for a while, that you and I spoke about, and that you are a living embodiment of it too, is to be also living as a creative reality, as well as being guided, but also realizing what you're speaking about, manifesting this intentionally, manifesting, intentionally creating. And that's I guess in a sense, you could say a kind of inner initiation that spirit has guided me through, maybe in the past 5 years, has been, and the kind of study that I've been in is remembering myself also as creator. So before that, and still, I'm living guided by spirit, but additionally, it's like co-creating with the spirit, with the spirit world. And I feel that this is humanity's big moment. This is my sense, is like this is before it was. And again, like I said, I am still guided by spirit, but they're all the different beings. I feel them looking at humanity and saying, this this is your moment to shine. This is what I feel them looking to humanity and saying, this is your moment to shine. And what that means, shine, to allow ourselves to radiate, to be. I feel that radiance also comes from transmuting those fears. Those We go
Yeah.
deeper into the forest and okay, just breathe. Just breathe. We might find that we have the tool, the something we didn't even know. Wait, I have this here. I can
Mhm.
be in nature. I didn't even realize I had these tools. So this is what it feels like. So, so it's an online program, you could say, that is, um, I'll go into the simple expression of it, if it's possible to try. Remembering ourselves as creators and supporting each other in that process while also being guided by spirit. And also, especially, you could say, priestessing with water, which is also to say priestessing with life, with the essence of life. We could say that too. And the way they show me this a lot is, let's say, water that on earth and in our own being presently is largely showing up denatured in a sense, or what people refer to as polluted or incoherent, or there's different ways people speak about that, the ways that we can mistreat ourselves or not love ourselves or not honor or value or this kind of thing. So they showed this, or there's Dr. Emoto and his work with water and how he shows, if you say thank you to water, what does the water molecule look like? If you say you make me sick, what does it look like? So how are we treating each other as humans? You know, how are we being with each other's water? So it's just as you were speaking to also, is that it's remembering it is all sacred. We are sacred, to live life as sacred. Um, it's a little something like that. That's I tried to say, how do I say this in a simple way? I tried. That was my attempt.
Well, I can help you. Maybe it's a 9-month program.
Thank you.
9 months. And it starts in November, right?
Yeah, you're good at this.
And and it features some guest teachers, one of which I happen to be a guest teacher in your program, this priestess training that's called Daughters of the Milky Way. I don't know if you said that, but you
I
can also
probably did.
So I'm honored to be, joining priestess forces in your own offering and coming into your container and sharing a little bit of my ways with those who come. And I'm offering a class on that's called the Nourished Priestess. And yeah, that's a whole different segue and topic that we didn't touch on at all and really in this conversation, but it applies, or it's relevant because everything is sacred. And so in this class in Liv's program, I'm diving into all the ways in which we nourish ourselves is a sacred act. And it's something that I've explored personally in great depth in really specific ways over the years. And so there's like 3 different components to how I personally have connected with the sacred through the ways in which we nourish ourselves. And one module or one aspect, there's like 3 aspects, and one aspect being just the way we do feed ourselves from a day-to-day basis, and how that can be a sacred process of nourishment just from the basic need of needing to eat, and how that can become ritualized and and a blessed sacred experience where it really affects and changes your relationship to food, and recognizing that what you take in is becoming a blessing for you, and it's connecting you deeper with spirit. And then the second aspect is in a more obvious kind of way, in a more obvious context of plant medicine. And so taking things into your body in this really intentional ceremonial way, where in my reality, that's with cacao, and that's cacao ceremony, and is another way of connecting deeper with divinity within you through connecting in that kind of container. And so I take you through a little bit of sharing of how to incorporate that into your life. And then the third aspect is through fasting, which is kind of like the opposite of nourishment, most might say, but but I will speak and share about how deeply nourishing the process of fasting is, and helping one to again connect deeper and with the divinity within, and awakening to the divinity that you are. Fasting is a powerful practice from that spiritual perspective. So that's what I'm going to be contributing to Liv's program, and I can't wait. And yeah, yeah.
I'm so excited about it too. So yeah, thank you so much as well. And it feels like an honor. And so yeah, for your website, and then my website is earthamulet.com.